Ready to dive into something we all have, daily routines. They're fascinating, right? This mix of habits and choices that, well, shape our days. But have you ever stopped to think about how much they actually reveal about us?
Absolutely, it's true. They offer a glimpse into our priorities, even our personalities, and they really impact everything from our productivity to our overall well-being.
Exactly. And for this deep dive, you've given us two very different routines to kind of pick apart. One starts super early, 6:30 a.m. with yoga, while the other's a bit more relaxed, 7 a.m., rise and shine, and a bit of stretching. Now, I gotta ask, does that 1 hour difference actually make a big impact on the whole day?
Well, let's think about this. That early riser, that 6:30 person, might be tapping into their peak cortisol window. Cortisol, that's our get up and go hormone. And it naturally surges in the morning for a lot of people. So
Yeah.
capitalizing on that, waking up earlier, could mean they're ready for focused work right away.
Interesting. So the early bird really might get the worm, hormonally speaking, at least.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
But but forcing yourself awake when your body's not ready can also backfire. It can mess with your sleep cycles. And that could actually lead to less productivity later in the day.
So it's all about balance. Now, both of these routines, they have the usual stuff, brushing teeth, washing your face, drinking some water. Anything surprising or noteworthy about those common things?
Well, let's zero in on the hydration for a sec. Starting your day dehydrated, even a little bit, it can really affect how your brain works, like running it on low power mode.
Oh, wow. I knew about staying hydrated during the day, but I never thought that first glass was so important. Okay, so far so good. But now, breakfast. One routine is bread, eggs, and tea. The other's more fruit and coffee. Is one of these inherently better?
I wouldn't say it's about better or worse. It's more about understanding how those different nutrients, how they fuel us, how they affect our energy and our focus. So that bread, eggs, tea combo, that's protein, complex carbs, and a touch of caffeine. That can mean sustained energy release and good mental clarity all morning long.
Makes sense. What about the fruit and coffee then?
Well, with that one, you're getting a faster boost from the fruit sugar and the caffeine, of course, which is great to get going quickly. But it might not last as long as that other breakfast.
Interesting. So breakfast really sets the tone for the whole morning. Now, one routine specifically mentions checking the schedule, making a plan. Is that a key part of a successful routine, would you say?
Absolutely. That's about being proactive, not reactive. Have you ever heard of the Zeigarnik effect?
Can't say I have.
Basically, it says those unfinished tasks, they stick in our minds, create mental clutter.
So by making a plan, we're clearing our mental to-do list and freeing up space to focus.
Exactly. Plus, when we plan, we prioritize those important tasks and use our time better.
That's a great insight. All right, both routines move into work or study mode for the afternoon. Seems like no matter how you start your morning, work has to happen eventually.
Yes, and it's interesting. Both of them have dedicated work blocks in their routines. That's super important for deep work.
Yeah.
That's that state of focus where we can do our most creative and challenging work.
Right, deep work. Got it. Now, lunch, pretty different choices here. One sticks to rice, vegetables, sometimes chicken. The other is all about chapati with vegetables. Does that difference say anything deeper about the routines themselves?
Well, it is fascinating how much our culture influences what we eat, isn't it? Both lunches are good nutritionally. First one, you've got protein, complex carbs from the rice, fiber from the veggies. So that's good for sustained energy. And the second, the chapati and vegetables. Also a good mix of carbs and fiber there. Whole grains are the primary fuel source for that one.
So both nourishing, but in different ways. All right, everyone needs a break during the day, right? One routine talks about reading a book, the other watching a funny video. Any best practices when it comes to these mental breaks?
It's more about understanding how you respond to stress and what helps you recharge. Reading, that could be a great escape. Let your mind wander and relax. On the flip side, humor. It's been proven to lower cortisol levels. That's that stress hormone we talked about.
So a good laugh really can be just what the doctor ordered. I love that. Now, both routines mention snacks. Biscuits or fruit for one, tea and a snack for the other. Is snacking essential?
It depends, really. Some people find that eating smaller meals more often helps keep their energy levels stable, prevents those afternoon slumps.
Right, so it's not about the specific snack, but the timing to keep your energy up.
Exactly. And of course, choosing healthy snacks over processed stuff is always a plus.
Of course. Okay, moving on to the evening. Seems like this is where social connection comes in for both. Both routines talk about time with family and friends, whether it's meals, going out, or just relaxing together. What's the significance of that shared priority?
It just highlights that basic human need for connection. Strong social ties, they're linked to more happiness, less stress, even better physical health. In fact, some studies suggest loneliness can be as bad for us as smoking.
Wow, seriously. I knew it was important, but I didn't realize it was that impactful. It's great to see both routines prioritize that, even with all their other
It
differences.
really does. It speaks to that human desire for belonging, and the positive impact it has on us.
All right, but what about dinner? One routine is lighter meals, like soup or salad. The other is a classic dal and rice combo. Is this just personal preference or something more to consider?
It could be a few things. Cultural preferences, definitely. But maybe also being mindful of how many calories they need based on how active they were during the day.
So someone with a more physical job might go for the heavier meal, and someone less active might choose the lighter option.
Exactly. Listening to your body and adjusting accordingly.
Now, after dinner, one routine is all about writing, listening to music, prepping for the next day. The other mentions watching TV, reading a book, and making a to-do list. What jumps out at you about those different ways to unwind?
It's just so interesting to see how people unwind, how they choose to spend their free time. Some people love those creative outlets. Others prefer something more passive or planning for what's next.
So it's not about the specific activity, but finding what helps you de-stress and transition from that busy day to a more relaxed state of mind.
Absolutely. It's about finding what works for you and making it part of your routine.
Speaking of winding down, one routine mentions prayer or meditation before bed, the other reflecting on the day. Are those pre-sleep rituals essential for good sleep?
Well, think of it this way. Our minds are often racing with thoughts and worries as we're trying to fall asleep. Things like prayer, meditation, even just quiet reflection, they can quiet those thoughts and prepare us for a more restful sleep.
So it's about creating a buffer between the day's activities and sleep, letting our minds settle down.
Yes, exactly. Like signaling to your mind and body that it's time to let go of the stress and embrace that restful sleep.
It seems like even with all these differences, both routines emphasize that intentional downtime and mental preparation for sleep.
They do, and it's interesting that even though their evenings are different, they both aim for a 10:00 p.m. bedtime. That consistent sleep schedule is so important for our circadian rhythm, which affects everything from our hormones to our energy levels and how well our brains work.
So no matter how we spend our evenings, a consistent bedtime seems crucial for good sleep and overall well-being.
Exactly. It's honestly one of the most important things you can do for your health.
Wow, it's incredible how much we can learn from just two routines. And I bet you, our listener, are already thinking about your own routine and how all this might apply to you. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll delve deeper into the potential benefits and drawbacks of these different approaches to daily routines. Stay tuned. Welcome back to our deep dive on daily routines.
It is fascinating, isn't it? How much we can learn from just looking at how other people structure their day.
You're right. Now we've kind of laid out these two routines, one more structured, one more flexible. Time to analyze and see what takeaways might work for you, right?
Exactly. Let's go back to that 6:30 wake up. We talked about that potential cortisol advantage. But early rising, it's been linked to other benefits too.
Like what? I'm all ears.
Yeah.
Always trying to be more productive.
Well, studies have shown that people who wake up early, they tend to be more proactive,
Hmm.
better at anticipating problems.
Oh, interesting. So they're not just getting a head start, they're thinking ahead, avoiding those last-minute scrambles.
That's right. And that quiet time before everyone else is up, it can be golden for focused work.
Yeah, like a secret weapon against distractions.
Exactly. Now, if you're not a morning person, don't worry.
I was just thinking about that. Is there any hope for us night owls?
Of course. Later wake-up times can work too. It's about aligning your routine with your natural sleep chronotype.
Chronotype, like your
Your-
internal clock.
Precisely. Some people, they're wired to be more alert in the morning. Others, they hit their stride later in the day. The important thing is to work with your body, not against it.
Right, no need to force ourselves into a mold that doesn't fit.
Aye.
Now, exercise. One routine has 10 minutes of yoga every morning.
Yoga is great, really powerful for your physical and mental well-being. It's not just stretching. It's about mindfulness, connecting with your breath.
I've heard that yoga can actually change your brain.
Yeah, there's some really interesting research on that. Studies show that regular yoga practice, it can increase gray matter in areas of the brain, the areas associated with self-awareness, memory, emotional regulation.
Wow, so it's a workout for your brain and body. Now, the other routine mentions stretching or light exercise. Is that just as good?
Any movement in the morning is a good thing. It boosts your circulation, increases energy, improves your mood. It's all about finding what feels right for you and your body.
Right, and making it a habit, even if it's just a few minutes each day.
Exactly. Consistency is key for routines that stick. Now, we talked about the nutritional differences between the two breakfasts, but I'm curious about the psychological side of things.
Me too. I definitely feel more ready to tackle the day when I've had a good breakfast.
Absolutely. There's a connection there between what we eat and how we feel. A balanced breakfast can help stabilize blood sugar levels, and that can really impact our focus, mood, and energy all morning.
So, if you're hitting that mid-morning slump, maybe take a look at what you had for breakfast.
Exactly. Now, remember those snacking habits we talked about? One routine had biscuits or fruit, the other tea and a snack. Seems like we all need a little boost in the afternoon.
Oh, I know I do. But snacking gets a bad rap. Can we just power through without those snacks?
Snacking isn't necessarily bad. It's about making good choices. If you're reaching for sugary or processed snacks, it might mean your main meals aren't giving you enough energy.
Oh, interesting. So snacking could be a sign that something needs tweaking in the overall routine.
Precisely. It's about listening to your body and choosing foods that support your energy levels.
Got it. So strategic snacking can be helpful. Now, those lunchtime activities, one was reading, the other was watching a funny video.
It's a great example of how important it is to personalize your routine. What recharges one person might not work for another.
So finding those activities that help you de-stress, come back to work feeling refreshed.
Exactly. Reading, that can be a mental escape. Immersing yourself in another world. Detaching from work stress
Like a mini vacation for your mind.
and humor. It's been proven to reduce cortisol, release endorphins, those feel-good chemicals.
So a good laugh, just as rejuvenating as a good book, but in a different way.
Exactly. It's all about what works for you.
Now, both routines emphasize social connections in the evening.
And that's so important, a key part of a good routine. Spending time with loved ones, it creates that sense of belonging, reduces stress, even boosts your immune system.
Yeah, we're social creatures. Those connections are vital.
Absolutely. Make time for the people who matter most. It's an investment in your happiness and your health.
So whether it's a family dinner, a game night, even just a phone call, prioritizing those connections is a must.
I completely agree. Now let's touch on those pre-bedtime rituals. One routine mentioned prayer or meditation. The other, reflecting on the day.
I like this idea of incorporating mindfulness. Any science behind the benefits?
Definitely. Studies show that things like meditation and mindfulness, they can reduce anxiety, improve sleep quality, even enhance cognitive function.
Wow, that's amazing. Like training your mind to be calmer and more focused.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Even just a few minutes of quiet reflection before bed can make a difference.
Right. It's not about a strict routine. It's about finding what helps you find peace.
Precisely. Another key takeaway here is consistency.
Right. Both individuals had regular sleep schedules, waking up and going to bed around the same time every day.
That consistency is crucial for regulating your circadian rhythm, that internal clock that controls your sleep-wake cycles.
So even if you're not a morning person, a consistent sleep schedule is good for your health.
Exactly. It helps with hormone production, sleep quality, energy levels throughout the day.
It's like setting your internal clock to the right time zone.
And don't underestimate those little habits. Brushing your teeth, washing your face, staying hydrated.
Yeah, they seem basic, but they contribute to structure and self-care.
And that structure can be really grounding, especially in a world that can feel so chaotic.
Like little anchors throughout your day, keeping you on track.
Now, before we move on, I want to ask you, the listener, a question.
Oh, I love a good challenge. What is it?
Think about what we've talked about. What one small change could you make to your routine to improve your well-being? Maybe adding 5 minutes of stretching in the morning, or swapping a sugary snack for a piece of fruit. Think about it. See what resonates with you. We'll be back in a moment to explore how routines change and adapt over time.
Welcome back. I'm ready to rethink my own routine after going through these two.
It's really amazing how much we can learn just from seeing what choices people make and how those choices really affect their days.
You're right. Now that we've really gotten into the specifics of these routines, I'm kind of curious about the bigger picture. How do routines, just as a concept, how do they fit into our lives overall?
That's a good question. Daily routines, they're more than just a list of tasks. They're like a framework for living more intentionally. Think of it as a way to turn your values and what you want to achieve, turn that into action.
So, like someone who makes time for creative stuff in their evening routine, they're actively like nurturing that side of themselves.
Exactly, making space for what matters. And someone who consistently blocks out time for deep work, like we talked about, that shows that focused productivity is really important to them.
So it's like routines are a way of saying, this is who I am and this is what I believe in.
I love that. And beyond that personal alignment, there's more and more evidence that good routines can actually reduce stress and anxiety.
Oh, really? That's kind of surprising. Wouldn't a strict routine make you feel more stressed?
Not necessarily. If our day has a predictable structure, our brains don't have to work so hard to make decisions. It's like having a mental map, less cognitive load, more mental energy for other stuff.
So not about being rigid, more about creating a sense of ease throughout the day.
Exactly, working with your natural rhythms, not against them.
But what about people who like spontaneity? Does having a routine mean giving that up?
No, not at all. It's about finding that balance. What works for you? You can have those non-negotiables in your routine, like your wake-up time, or those morning things that get you going, but also leave room for flexibility.
So a basic structure, but being open to those unexpected things that happen.
Exactly. A routine that supports your well-being mentally and physically without killing your sense of adventure.
You've mentioned habits a lot. How do they play into routines?
Habits, they're the building blocks of our routines.
Mhm.
Those automatic actions we do without really thinking. Frees up mental energy for other things.
So once a habit is formed, it's easier to stick to the routine.
Exactly. So if you want to change your routine, start with building those small habits, the ones that are sustainable.
Like starting each morning with a glass of water or a quick walk after lunch.
Right, those little changes, they can have a ripple effect, gradually shaping your routine and eventually your life.
So no need to change everything at once. Just start with one small thing and build from there.
Exactly. Gradual, sustainable changes that fit with your goals and values.
I love that it's a lot less intimidating than a complete overhaul. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Yes, just remember that your routine, it's not set in stone. As you change and grow, your routine should change too. What worked for you a year ago might not work for you today.
So it's not about finding the perfect routine and never changing it. It's about adapting, making adjustments when you need to.
Exactly. Pay attention to how you feel. Listen to your body. Don't be afraid to try new things, new structures.
It's like a journey, always refining and tweaking our routines to fit our needs and what we want to achieve.
Beautifully put. At the end of the day, your routine should help you live a healthier, happier, more fulfilling life.
I think that's the perfect way to end this. Thanks for taking us on this deep dive into the world of routines.
My pleasure.
And to you, our listener, remember, your routine is a reflection of you. Make it a masterpiece. Until next time, keep diving deep.